Okay, so I just finished chapter 1, and so now I'll move on to chapter 2. Now, okay, it already spawned me before I reloaded, and it spawned me before the title screen. In chapter 2, new areas opened up, so you can go through the, I think it's, okay, the Matoran Village, Matoran Fortress is what it's called. So you can go through the Matoran Fortress and access new areas. So I'll start with another cleaning, do one video that's a cleaning, and then cut to another one, and then do the actual quests. So this video will be pretty much all cleaning, and that's pretty boring. So if you want to skip the cleaning, just skip to the next video, which probably will be in a playlist. I'll probably put this in a playlist. Anyway, you get to see the title screen again. Sweet. So the Burnout camps, they're all in regions that I could access previously. So none of them are in new regions. So I'll do the cleaning first, and then I'll go back to those when I do the actual quests. Okay. I like to defeat everything I see as I go. However, Water Gothna, Earth Gothna, and Earth Burnak, again, they mixed up the stone and earth coloring. In this game, I'm using the coloring the game uses, because they're only 40, 50... Oh, Ice Gothna as well, only 40, 50, 80 experience points. So they're not worth the time. Unless I'm doing a cleaning, of course, then I defeat them in the area I'm cleaning. I just don't defeat them walking around through areas I've already been through. But a rock Usul is like 600 or so, so or maybe it's pronounced Rock Usul. The Rock Usul is, I think, 600, so I bother with the Rock Usul as I walk through. They are kind of a little more trouble than they're worth compared to, say, Water Burnak, which are a very good deal. Huh? Okay. That gave me an item this time, but it didn't last time. Maybe it did and I forgot. Maybe I was right in saying, depending on your rank and place in the story, that you... Okay, I gotta do the Burnak. Different Rahi give you different items? I don't know. Okay, the Burnak's really resistant to water because it's a water Burnak. Ugh. Okay. Oh wow, this reload set me back a long ways. Okay, I'll have to deal with that. Hopefully it didn't set me back multiple levels. I have to go back and recheck the footage and make sure it didn't do that. Well, there's nothing I can do about it now. Medium defensive water. Huh, I didn't get that before. This is weird. Obviously things didn't reset properly. That's for sure. Oh well. Let's go down to the stronghold. Up, get the burn axe. I can't see it. Oh. Pff. That was dumb. It's funny how it says not in spell area. It seems like whoever built this game previously built another game with similar mechanics, and these, what I was using, were spells. Okay. Sure is nice when you can actually see what you're fighting. Good. It doesn't seem like I got set back on any levels. It was just some items in the inventory and some equipping. As far as I can tell. So, okay. You lose some progress when you reload from a save. Now, I wonder what the dialogue will be for the characters in here when you haven't got quests to talk to them yet. Okay, that's just the normal dialogue. Okay. Got 2 rock usels down here. We're gonna go left to right, so we'll start over here. Oh. Well, I usually don't bother with the Goffna, but this is a cleaning, so I gotta bother with everything. Okay. Do rock usels. Or usels. However you want to say it. Zap all of its attack points so it can't do anything. The rock usels are very into, if I'm losing, get more rock usels in the fight. Although I don't want to attack the new rock usel, I want to attack the old one, because you always want to decrease the amount of things you're fighting as soon as possible. That cuts the total amount of damage done to you in the fight down by a factor of 2. And not per turn, like over the whole thing. It's like, you know, cutting a square in half by its diagonal. Right, if you had like 10 things, and if you defeated them as one at a time, then you'd have 10, and then 8, 9, and then 8, and 7, and so on. Whereas, if you evenly distributed your attacks amongst all of them, you'd have all of them the whole time until you got to the last round. Right, so you're on average fighting half as many things throughout the whole entire fight. See if I can get to the copy of that row. Now, I won't do this part yet. Keep it more straightforward. Okay. Do this. Just do these Gothna. It's gonna take forever. Come on. Get it. Yeah, it goes out of its way to get the other Gothna to join the fight, and the other Gothna just kind of runs away. Eventually you get so powerful that they just run away. Which is such an inconvenient feature they programmed into this. They could have made the Rocky a lot more stupid, and make this game take a lot less long. Technique. Nothing at the cave entrance. Okay, now I actually go this way. And this might be the Burnak food. So, yeah, you don't get anything yet from that. That's a quest thing. Okay, this is the first time I think I've had a stone Burnak in this playthrough, but they're nothing special, and they only give you 1,000 points of experience. Wait, don't you get an Earth Zamor launcher from defeating... Rydak? I think I called him Redak, but I think it's pronounced Rydak, according to Greg. That is... Man, that's a bug. Okay, so there's a lot of bugs in the reload. That's for sure. Huh. Again, air Baranac are just like Stone Baranac, but air and have slightly more health. They give you the same amount of experience, even though they have slightly more health. Oh, they give you oh, I was wrong. They give you more experience. Now, I think I already have a medium Greaves. Yeah, okay. Forgetting I can hit it twice. You can end up with fights with creatures that across a barrier who can't cross. You can complete those fights if you have a vision pack sometimes, as long as the thing you're fighting stays in range. However, usually you can't finish the fight, and the only way to progress is to abandon it. But abandoning a fight is the same as losing it, so you can try to get around that by always just closing out and reloading the game, which would work, except that there's some issues, as you just noticed, with reloading from a save. So, you can't lose any, like, a level by losing experience. However, you just get set back from getting to the next level. You can't do that dig over there because it's on the wrong side of the area. Okay. Oh, there's the vision pack. Okay. You know what, since I'm not fighting anything particularly powerful, I could put it in instead of the Life Stone. I probably won't need it, but might make things more convenient sometimes. If you wonder what I was talking about there, the Life Stone allows you to recharge your health. As opposed to attack. It takes a certain amount of 8 attack points to use. The Vision Pack allows you to shoot through things. So it helps out when enemies get into like awkward positions where you can't hit them. Or you attack something that's like across a barrier from you. Not yet, okay. I'll have to think of things to say during cleanings. But then maybe I shouldn't think of things to say during cleanings because no one's actually going to get this far in a cleaning. Or, yeah, like watch a cleaning this far. Maybe that allows me the liberty to say all kinds of weird things and no one will find out I said them. I think last cleaning I just started talking about general Bionicle stuff. And I brought up how, although in Island of Doom, Greg Farsty wrote you don't have to be a Toa to be a hero and wrote it 2 times, that because of the way Bionicle sets and how they're marketed work, and how they're produced, you kind of do. Just dictated by the product, the primary moneymaker. So a debate came up. Well, it was basically TTV, honestly, of why, should, if you were to make Bionicle as a system theme, should minifigures that represent Matoran have shorter legs? And my answer to this would be, well, this is a silly hypothetical. You shouldn't ever make something with the name Bionicle on it as a system theme. It would probably be worse than if you just made your own original system theme. I guess you could say that somehow the name might make things sell, more than just any original system theme. But then you're trying to work around the whole, trying to make it seem like something that should have the name Bionicle on it. Which will make you make decisions that make you not necessarily write the best story you possibly could, right? It's an unnecessary restriction of creativity. So no. But the motivation for why the Matoran were smaller than the Toa was just because when you use construction, the size of the set is usually determined by the size of the character. Your whole set is a character. So the reason why they had characters of different sizes is so they can make sets of different sizes. And so then they go, okay, we have sets of different sizes. How do we write? We're going to write a story. How do we treat them in the story? And they decided to do, okay, well, the little guys will be literally, the underdog will be literal, the little guy will be the literal little guy. Coming off first off the idea of we need to sell sets of different sizes. So sets of different sizes didn't really symbolize anything. It wasn't like, we do this to symbolize this in the story or clearly communicate this aspect of the story. It was just a sets thing. And the story just sort of adapted to the sets. But then they tried to make these kind of heartwarming things, where they made the Matoran heroes anyway, like the Chronicler's Company. And made the Matoran main characters anyway, despite being small. Like, the writers like to play around with that. That was a fun thing, either at Templar or, like, whoever made all that media in 2006 with the Matoran Resistance. Now, of course, that was just because the Matoran Resistance was placeholder heroes until Toa showed up in the second half. Right, so they were never really meant to be heroes anyway. Because, again, sets. So the writers didn't seem to really like the idea of the Matoran being useless or anything. Even one Matoran wasn't supposed to be useless. Takuo was a lone wolf. He was only one Matoran. He didn't really work in a team ever. And he wasn't useless. So Matoran by themselves are not useless, they're just small. And their smallness wasn't meant to communicate that either, despite what some people say. So then the answer would be, is there a reason? The question now, is there a reason to preserve the smallness of the Matoran because it's such an ingrained characteristic of Bionicle? And I would say, well, the construction is an ingrained characteristic of Bionicle, and the smallness of the Matoran is a consequence. However, the smallness of the Matoran is not something that's integral to the Bionicle story. In fact, Greg played around with that a little bit in I believe it's the Kingdom. The Kingdom's coming up a lot in these commentary. With, no, it wasn't, that was a different alternate universe that... Okay, this wasn't an alternate universe that Takanuba went into. It was an alternate universe that Mazika went into. Where the Matoran were big and the Toho were small. Greg's sort of trying to make a statement here that, as far as the story is concerned, the size, the physical size of the characters doesn't really matter. So the idea that the size of the character matters story-wise is something that I'm not really a big fan of. You can't really... It's not really a fact thing. It's more of an opinion. But it seemed like the way Bionicle was going, they were with the story, they really weren't intending for that to be the case. They sort of messed around with it satirically sometimes. So, is it important that we make sure that the Matoran looks smaller? No. Should we do something that makes it so I have to argue this? No. What's some more controversial stuff? I don't know this. What made Bionicle so attractive to kids, particularly me when I was a small kid, was the design language or artistic style of the pieces used. So how they had integrated Technic connection points at seemingly kind of arbitrary locations in the part. Integrated into a piece that had this hybrid between just kind of looking like a robot part and also being a way of orienting the Technic connection points with respect to each other in such a way so that you could insert gears and the mechanics would work. Now, I didn't really find gear functions very useful for play, because gear functions just had a tendency to make limbs limp. They decreased the posability of the set. However, they did force the designers to make pieces that could accommodate the gears, which improved the intrigue of the piece design, and increased the intrigue of my little brain. And maybe just want to, like, stare at these pieces with these kind of designs that combine the task of looking sort of like a tribal tiki robot, which is a difficult thing to pull off, in combination with just combining that with making the technical connection points the right way, such that you could get the gears oriented with themselves the right way. That's what got me. So when CCBS came along and they decided, well, we're going to do away with that entirely and make all of this design language be added to the set via add-ons, via layers on top. So this would be G2, for example, as opposed to integrating it into the parts and integrating it into the relative location of the Technic connection points within the parts, right? Just make it, if you just use like an armor add-on, every single armor add-on connects to the shell in the exact same way. That's boring. Now, it might be a lot cheaper, but it's a lot more boring. And it's less, I don't know what's it called, mesmerizing, eye candy, I don't know what the word is for it. To really get that feel, you gotta integrate that greebliness into the core components, right? You gotta integrate it specifically into the place that holds the mechanics. So in the same part that has the gears, you basically have to make ornate gearboxes, essentially. Probably the best part I can think of was the lower part of the Bow-Rock torso. So, the bigger, or the larger part of the Bow-Rock torso that was colored. The best example of Bionicle design language. As well as, of course, the Mata torso and the Metru torso. Now, given I haven't actually bought any G2 sets, so maybe if I had, I might have liked them. I don't know. I just didn't because I didn't think that I would. Right? They just didn't really appeal to me. And then they came up with that Uniter torso, where they decide, oh, you want pistons? Well, then we'll give you pistons. Here, have a lot of pistons randomly placed in the middle of the torso. You don't understand. Like, the pistons, they have to be located in such a way that it looks like they would be used to articulate a joint. Right, so the pistons on the side of the Mata torso, they look like they would be used to articulate the Toa's waist. The pistons on the Mata leg look like they would be used to articulate the Toa's legs. The pistons on the side of the Metru torso look like they would be used to articulate the torso. Now, of course, they put those pistons on the side of the Metru legs that would do nothing. Those are goofy. But in the earlier, like, part design of Bionicle, the pistons would be located in places where they would articulate things. So they made some sort of mechanical sense. Later on, with especially like the, well, I don't know. With some later part design, it seemed like they used pistons as volume fill. Like, we wanted to make it such that this part doesn't look so thin, right? Or this leg shouldn't look so thin, so let's just kind of add pistons on the side of it to make it thicker, even though the pistons make no mechanical sense. Now, the pistons on the Uniter torso, some of them may have made sense because there would be like abs, right? You could crunch with them, but some of them made no sense. They're just putting pistons on it to put pistons on it, and none of them would be used to actually articulate a joint. So it looked utterly stupid. So I agree with everybody in that torso looked stupid because it did. There's no shortcuts to these things. It's kind of a slap in the face. Yeah, I was like, you want pistons? We'll give you pistons. We'll just give you pure pistons with no practical application of them. I sometimes may liken CCBS to Zoobs, but I guess CBS wasn't that bad. It wasn't Zoobs. It sure reminds me of Zoobs, though. If anybody still remembers what Zoobs are. It kind of has sort of an immature sort of feel to it. It's very difficult to describe or explain using some sort of logic, right? Just a feeling to it. It's like what made me like Bionicle figures so much was how different they were from actual people. If you decide to make a system that allows you to make figures that look more like real people... hit the wrong thing. Oh, okay. And you say, how does CCUS look like more like real people? Well, it doesn't until you start considering that LEGO started trying to make human figures with it. Now, that didn't work out so well, but LEGO probably sure did think that it made the figures look more like people, and were trying to use it that way. That was probably one of their motivations for making the system, was to make a system that can be used to model people, and not just weird robotic things. And so once you start making things more like people, I start thinking more that it's a doll, for example. And then I start not liking it as much. If that makes any sense. This is, of course, just my opinion. There's nothing, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you if you disagree, because this is the internet, and if you put out an opinion, then I'm picking a fight with somebody, apparently, but... Again, I haven't actually bought any of those, so... I mean, my opinion is slightly less valid because of that, I admit. Okay, so I think that finishes the cleaning. So now that I'm done with the cleaning, I will end this segment and then proceed on with the quests, which we start with the burnout camps. So I'll stop recording